All right, here we go, Dragons. Problem number 1, we have DVDs and phones being sold. If we look up here, we have an $80 profit for each DVD. So what we can do is we can look at our graph over here, and you notice that DVD is on the x-axis. So DVD is going to be represented by the x-axis, so we're going to put 80 for every one DVD player sold. On this axis over here, you notice we're dealing with the phones. Read the problem, and we get $20 profit for each phone. So to that, we'll add $20 for each phone, because again, the phone is on the y-axis. We'll multiply it by y. And we want to be at least, here's the key, at least is greater than or equal to $320. So right away what we can do is we can focus on this symbol right here. It's greater than or equal to, and we should know that that will be a solid line. So we can eliminate anything that has dashed lines. That would be A, and that would be D. Those have dashed lines. And so now we're between B and C. So if I rewrite the equation here so that we can look at the graphs or the pictures, we have it right here. When we go to solve for y, we're going to subtract the 80x from both sides. And we notice that I'm going to have to divide by a positive 20. Dividing by a positive will not change this, so this is going to be greater than in my final answer. I'm not even worried about what that's going to be. All I'm asking myself is which of these two shadings shows greater than. If you remember, greater than is going to be above the line and less than will be below the line. This one goes above. The correct answer to number 1 is C. Problem number 2. I want you to sketch this out. We have an XY axis and we have a point that is 211. Let's say point 211 is right there. Okay, we want to be perpendicular. That means that we want to be a 90-degree angle to the y-axis. So if I'm going to have a little box here for a 90-degree angle to this line right here, I want something that looks like that. I've just created a horizontal line. And if you remember your Hoivux, horizontal lines are y equal. So right away these two guys go away. And I ask, what is my y coordinate? My y coordinate is 11. The answer is B. Problem number 3. If we look at our answer choices, they all have a y-intercept of 110, so that is irrelevant. So now we're looking mainly at the slope. So I know my y-intercept is 110. I know that I have another clean point right here at 2, 100. So if I do a slope triangle right here, my delta y is going down, so that will be negative. I go down 10 units to every delta x, which is to the right, so that's positive, and I go to the right 2, and that's going to be approximately a -5 slope. The one closest to a -5 slope is A. Problem number 4. We have F for fudge and we have G for gum. Those have just replaced the X and Y. So if I want to come back and replace fudge with Y and gum with X, it'll look a little more familiar, I believe. So if I solve these for Y, this one will be Y equals a -3/5 X plus 570 divided by 5, and this one will be y equals I didn't change that to y and x. This one will be y is equal to a negative 10x over 2 plus $3.60 over 2. So if we look at this, it says determine the cost piece of one piece of fudge. Fudge got replaced with y to the nearest hundredth. The nearest hundredth, when we're talking about cost, this is going to be to the nearest penny. So when you do this problem, what I'd like for you to do is go to your table set. I'd like for you to start at 0, and I want you to go by ones. You go through and you put your equations that you solve for y into y1 and y2, and then we go searching. We're looking for y1 and y2 to be the same. So as we scroll down right here, oh Shazam, look what we have. We have the same number in both equations, and that is, in terms of money, that's 15 cents. The correct answer here is 0.15. So on your grid, you should have bubbled in a decimal point and then a 1 and a 5. Problem number 5, what are the key valid features? Let's just go through and check them out. It says that 17,600 is your y-intercept. That is correct. 16,0 is the x-intercept. I don't quite know, so I'm going to hold off on number 2. The value of the slope is positive. No, this one is negative. So I know that that doesn't work. There is no 0 of the function. Looks like it could if it continues. I'm going to hold off on that one. And we have a slope of a negative 1100. So if I do a slope triangle from here to right here, I'm going to subtract my y values, my delta y over my delta x, and I get negative 7, and I think 7,700 was what I got earlier. Yep. And so that's going to give me a slope of negative 1100. This one works. Now, if you go back and look at our answer choices, we know that 1 and 5 absolutely work. If you look at your answer choices, the only one that contains 1 and 5 is D. So we know that we can surmise that 2 will work as well. And because nothing else has a 1 and a 5 in it. This is 1 and 4, but we know that 5 works. It's got to be D. Number 6 should be hopefully good. These are parallel lines. They do not cross. They do not have a solution. What is the slope of the line right here? We're going to solve for y by subtracting remember, if 4x is positive on the left side of the equation, if you move it to the other side, it'll be negative. The big key is right here is, did you forget the negative? That's a negative 8y is equal to negative 4x, and that 12 is positive. The whole thing on this is dealing with signs. You'll divide by negative 8. Everything gets divided by negative 8. And it just wants the slope, so I want the coefficient of x, and negative divided by negative is a positive. So I think that on your grid you would need to convert this 1/2, which is what negative 4 over negative 8 reduces to a 0.5, and grid that. All right, we got some data here, but the good news is this is really all we need right here. What is the equation of the asymptote? I don't know. Why don't we plug it in our calculator and find out? So we got 6 times the base of 2 raised to the x power. So we have something that looks like that. All right, that looks like what we have there. And we'll hit graph. You'll see that it's a growth. And we notice that we have this asymptote right here. It's further evidenced right here as you take a look. Let's go back and reset our table to go by ones. If we take a look at this, as x increases, so does y. But you notice that as x decreases, so does y. And y is is getting smaller every time by a factor of 2. So I'm really taking half of the number each time. And how long can I take half of a number? And go on forever. So this is going to get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the horizontal line, y equals 0.